So it's 4:30 right now, and we've got like 6 hours, 7 hours till our flight leaves, so that's cool. So here we are, just sitting and waiting here at the bar.
It's not open.
That's not open yet, with tablets that don't work. MSP.
The future.
The future is now.
Hey guys, so I thought it was finally time to edit some of this footage that we had taken on our trip last year in April of 2018 to Japan. This has been something that I've been wanting to do for so long, and my husband and I finally decided that it was just time to up and go for it. So yeah, excuse all of our really tired faces. We were at the airport fighting off a snowstorm. We were there probably like 14 hours prior to our flight. And then we had another 13 hour flight to get to Japan. But I am telling you guys, it was so worth it. We were tired, but we were so very excited. It was just absolutely beautiful. I can't even explain the feeling we had while we were there. This was our first time traveling internationally to a country where English was not the popular language, I'll say. And from the moment we got to our gate at the airport to the moment we landed, it was culture shock all the way, but in the best way possible. It was like we stepped into a different world completely, and we were so blessed to have been able to go on this trip. We ended up staying at the Palace Japan Hotel in Tokyo, and it was about a 15-minute walk to the nearest train station, and it was really the perfect place that we could have gotten. It was not surrounded by a lot of tourists, and we were right smack dab in the middle of culture and a lot of old traditional buildings and businesses. We were traveling with my brother and his girlfriend and one of our best friends, and each of us had this sweet little balcony right outside of our room, and we could overlook the city every morning and just listen to the sounds of the cars driving by and the natives just going about their everyday routine, and we could not help but stop at 7-Eleven on our first night.
Good morning, guys. We are just getting some breakfast done from 7-Eleven right now, and Jess is eating some tofu from 7-Eleven. Yummy. I got some yakisoba noodles. After this, it's about almost 6 a.m., so we're going to go on a walk, wait for the rest of our party to get up, and today we're going to head to Akihabara, so we're real excited for that.
We didn't plan out the fanciest of trips. We really wanted to experience the culture and just leave it at that. We didn't have any crazy plans or things that we wanted to do, while we did have a small list of things that we were going to be doing. I grew so used to seeing this site every single day and waking up and going for our morning walks to the train station and just planning out our adventure and where we wanted to go and see. Living quarters and really everything was just a lot smaller in Japan. It was amazing, and we grew so thankful for all of the things that we do have, and I feel like part of the experience really hit home and just helped me realize that there are so many things in life that we take for granted, and it really just made me want to live the simpler life as I'm sitting there on my Snapchat. We really do plan on coming here as often as we can in the future. We really fell in love, and aside from all of the buildings being concrete jungle and being a big fan of nature, it was just so beautiful and such an amazing surrounding atmosphere.
I think I'm getting us, I don't really know. Yeah, I am cool.
If you guys don't know this about me, I get anxiety really easily in public places with crowds and just the amount of people, and always feeling like I'm in somebody's way. But that was not the case at all in Japan. Everything was so orderly. You stay on the left side of pretty much every pathway and escalators and such. Everybody just is mindful of the other person, and this is just a little example of that in the train station while we were going to our first destination of Akihabara. And I'm not going to lie, it was really, really confusing trying to navigate it, but we became pros by the end of this trip. My husband and his friend here, Devin, had recorded a lot of the footage for this. Unfortunately, it was before my time of being interested in starting YouTube at all, so I was not recording anything, but I'm so thankful that they had gotten these small pieces that we did. It's just great looking back on it. And I can promise you guys that the next time we go to Japan, I will be taking a lot more footage. I never thought I would be interested in becoming a blogger or a vlogger or any of this stuff. So you'll see a couple photos and things that I'd taken on my phone from Snapchat and Instagram and things like that too, just so I can show you guys a little bit more of the experience and document it and have not just a bunch of random videos. We decided to spend our first day in Japan in none other than the famous Akihabara. Unfortunately, we weren't aware of what times things would actually be open at, so we were there very early in the morning, and Akihabara is known as Electric Town, so it's most famous for its electronics and its nightlife and all of the different things they've got going on, and it's a hot spot for lovers of games and anime and anyone that really likes all of those kind of nerdy things. But we were fascinated regardless, and we even took a video here of all of the different food that was made out of wax. It looked so good and it wasn't even real. Feel free to call us nerds if you want, but we love anime and this store was just so cool and so much fun and there was so much to look at. So one thing about being in Japan is the quality of air. I ended up picking up this mask because I started getting a little lightheaded. So if you've ever wondered why a lot of Japanese people will wear these masks, that's why. It really makes a difference in the quality of air that you breathe. We ended up wandering the streets of Akihabara kind of without any goals or expectations. We just looked and waited for things to open up and kind of just took it in for what it was. It was carefree and it was fun and it was a completely new experience for all of us. Yeah, there's our group there. We really had a great time. I'm sure we looked like really crazy people to the locals, but hey, that's what you do when you're in a foreign country. So after we had adventured around Akihabara for a little while, we ended up taking a little walk and we found our first shrine, and unfortunately this is the only shrine we ended up visiting on our trip in Japan. It was just kind of a diamond in the rough and I'm not even sure what the name of it was or where exactly it was. We were just kind of going for a little walk and we stumbled across it and couldn't help but to investigate a little bit. I know that there were a lot of signs and stuff there, but I'll be honest and say that my Japanese wasn't as good as I thought it was when we got there. This was one of those things that we just didn't plan on seeing while we were there. It was totally unexpected and we just so happened to stumble across it. And honestly, you guys, this was one of my favorite experiences while we were in Japan because a lot of the stuff that I thought that we would have a great time seeing and doing, while they were fun, they were just very touristy and they weren't exactly what I was hoping for them to be. So just happening to stumble across this secret little shrine was a really great experience and really added to the trip. So on our second day, our group had a little bit of differences on what we wanted to be doing. So my brother and his girlfriend went and did their own separate thing, while my husband and I and our friend took a little stroll down Takeshitadori. Now, if you haven't heard of this popular tourist destination, it is exactly that. It is packed full of so many cute little small shops, and it's a great place to find souvenirs of all different sorts. And it was really popular among the local teens and youngins. If I were to give you guys my honest opinion, however, I feel like it was a little more hyped up than it should have been. It might have been different for me if I wasn't traveling with two males that weren't really into the whole cute little accessory shops and all of that. If I was with a girlfriend or something, maybe it would have been a little bit different. Where are we going?
Wherever. We're here to walk around. Alright, go in stores and stuff. We'll follow you. Sorry, what did you say about a hat? Oh, okay. Like, I don't know what you got. Can't see a smile wearing a mask. You gotta really squint your eyes like you're smiling. Well, I'm just being honest.
We spent a lot of time kind of wandering around and looking at things, and I just wasn't into the whole touristy atmosphere. I wanted to spend my money on things that were a little more, I don't know, unique. And while everything was fun and cool in Harajuku Street, it just wasn't really my scene, I guess. The guys were bored to death, as you can see from this little clip, as they were waiting for me to wander through some of the shops. So yeah, maybe if I would have came here as a teenager, I would have enjoyed it a little bit more, but yeah, I'm not as fashionable as I used to be, I guess.
Does it make the candy?
Yeah. Yeah, it melts these.
Oh my god.
How do we do this? Here we go.
Getting to experience this little store and this big old cotton candy stick is really probably my favorite part of having visited Takeshitadori. Yeah, it was just really touristy for me, and like I said, a little too hyped up, but we definitely had fun, and I'm going to be avoiding places in the future that are this touristy and just trying to stick with places that are a little more traditional and less hyped up. Our group had gotten together again after we had finished here, and funny story actually. My husband and I are both vegan, and we had a lot of cases on the trip where we were unsuccessful in ordering, and this is just a small example of one of those. I shared this on Snapchat, but I had to throw it in here too just because I thought it was kind of ironic. We ended up eating a lot of 7-Eleven, and we ended up drinking a lot of beer for dinner, and that's just how it went some of the times. We found ourselves at the Denny's in Japan quite often, frankly, because it was just so different than the restaurant that I worked at here in the States. So on day 3, we were at Denny's, and obviously I took a lot of photos of the menu because I was just so astounded at the differences, and everything was just so cute. But yeah, we enjoyed our meal, and it was just so different compared to being at one of the Denny's here in the US. On our first visit, it took us a little while to get any service because we didn't realize that the servers didn't stop by the table again until you ring the little bell that lets them know that you're ready and ready to place your order. We also weren't aware that drinks are kind of on a self-serve basis, so they don't bring you the drinks. You kind of go up and you pour whatever you want, and they charge it to you accordingly. So after we finished, we paid, and we were standing out in the rain and waiting for our taxi to bring us to none other than the famous Skytree. Now, I'll be honest here, I'd heard a lot about Skytree just from watching other YouTube videos and such, and after all of our prior experiences with different places that were hyped up and the top tourist destinations, I didn't have high expectations of going to Skytree. I assumed it all to be overpriced, but it was actually really beautiful and we really enjoyed it. And you can best bet that we visited the Pokemon Center while we were there. After our adventures with Skytree and the Pokemon Center at the mall, we decided to go back to the hotel and to get a little bit of rest before we took on the evening. And it's a really good thing that we did, because the next thing on our list was to head into Shinjuku and visit Robot Restaurant. We had tickets for the 5 of us to see the show at 9:30, and I believe it lasted for about an hour or an hour and a half, somewhere along those lines. It was really silly, and it was one of those things where it sounded really great, and then once you get there you realize it's a really big tourist attraction. So for us it was a little bit disappointing in comparison to other things that we'd experienced on the trip. A lot of the scenes were very cheesy, and the English wasn't the best, but I mean, what can you expect? I did get reminded of the old Power Rangers movies from back in the day with some of the scenes they were showing. So, yeah, I'm sure you guys get the point by now. I mean, maybe not, actually. We were pretty confused the whole time, and we were never really sure what exactly was going on or what was going to happen next. But I mean, hey, it was all part of the experience, I suppose. but I gotta hand it to them. Their energy was on point the whole night, and I definitely know that's not something I could have been doing. At least it would have been hard to look so happy that whole time. When we got out of the show, it was rather dark, and it was probably close to 11:30, and at that point the streets were getting packed with people, and it became kind of a sketchy situation. Now, we weren't aware of it at the time, but Shinjuku is notoriously known as Tokyo's red light district. There was a lot of nightlife activity going on, including people trying to hustle you, get you into bars, scam you, and we were always on the lookout for pickpocketers. Now, if there were ever a time while in Japan where I felt this way, it was here, and pretty much it was mostly because of all of the different tourists, and it wasn't even the natives. I mean, sure, they like to get drunk and got a little bit out of hand, but they weren't the ones that were causing a lot of the uneasy feelings. It was mostly people trying to talk to you and act like they're your friend and offer to show you around. Of course, we refused, but we were out way too late. And since we were out so late, we actually ended up missing the very last train at the station. It was a terrible experience. Thankfully, we got a cab to bring us back to the hotel. The next morning, we woke up early because it was our last full day in Japan. There were still a few things that we wanted to do, so we took our normal route to the train station, and the three of us found our way to Shibuya. Shibuya is probably most well known for its famous Shibuya crossing, and essentially it's a large crosswalk with stoplights for people. And I thought it would have been a lot more chaotic than it actually was. Surprisingly, it was very put together and people knew their way around without pushing and shoving. Of course, while in Shibuya, we just had to visit the famous Shibuya 109. Essentially, it's a teenage hotspot with 9 different floors of fashion, goodies, and overall just straight up cuteness. I had a lot of fun, and the guys bear with me while I was there, and it was just a really good experience. For some reason, single men weren't allowed in the room I was taking that photo in. Next, we headed into the area where the Hachiko statue was, and I had to take a picture with it because that's another thing that I've always wanted to do when going to Japan. Our trip to Shibuya was short and sweet, and we sort of hit all of our hotspots right away. So afterwards, we decided to take the bus to Mitaka City, and we were so glad we did. It was so stunning. The amount of trees and nature around us while we were walking to the Studio Ghibli Museum was absolutely amazing. We ended up having a little picnic in the park, and this was honestly probably my favorite part of Japan. It was so beautiful, and being someone that's so inspired by nature, I just couldn't get enough of this place. It was so stunning. Having been a Miyazaki fan for as long as I can remember, visiting the Studio Ghibli Museum where I could see his creations come to life and all of his raw and unedited footage, and it was just truly amazing. For good reason, they don't let you take any film or photos within the museum itself, but I got a few shots of the outside, and I'll just have to cherish the experience in my memory for years to come. Before we went back to our hotel for the evening, we had realized that we forgot to make one final crucial stop on our trip, and that brought us back to the famous Akihabara once more, this time in the evening hours. Something you'll learn when traveling to Japan is that they have a lot of vending machines, but none quite as weird and downright strange as found in this alleyway. Hidden behind those front vending machines was a very narrow alleyway, and the deeper you crept in, the weirder things got. The passageway in between all of those machines was very narrow, and it was really hard to squeeze in between them. But we found a way, and we're glad we did because what we saw was actually very interesting. Aside from being downright sketchy and weird, some of the things that we had encountered were these random bells, a bunch of different canned breads and chips, as well as some random bouncy balls, children's toys, and different emergency kits of different sorts. Goes for about $1, $7.50, $1.10, $1, $10 for canned muffin, $11 for that bottle of marbles. Well, it's $9.90 yen, so just under $10. We found a lot of interesting items and really just random things in these vending machines, but one of the most intriguing items we found were these yellow boxes. On the wrapping paper were stories that were written about cheating wives, ex-girlfriends, and the like, and they were really just the most strange and random stories that you'd almost regret reading about. So of course we had to get one. The boxes don't tell you what comes inside, so if curiosity gets the best of you, you're just going to have to end up purchasing one and find out for yourself.
2位から6位はご覧の通り。獅子座は遠回りすれば幸運をキープできそう。さそり座は健康にいいことをしてパワー低調。筆友からのアドバイスは月夜を楽しもう。
Well, there you have it, you guys. On day 5, we started packing up and got ourselves ready to head back home. I can't believe how fast the trip went by. It was such an amazing experience, and it just really left us with a taste for wanting more. If you ever thought about going to Japan, I'll just tell you this: do it. It's an experience of a lifetime, and we know that this is going to be the first of many trips to come. Thank you guys for tuning in today. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video and getting to experience this little tiny piece of Japan. The film and footage that we got of this trip really doesn't do it justice, and I really regret that I haven't gotten into YouTube before we went on this trip, but hey, there's always next time. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe. I'll be doing more videos like this in the future. Bye guys.